How is it when in one moment everything goes normally and in the next you lose everything you love? How does a person feel then? Full of hatred, pain, and eager for revenge. You go into a war regardless of the strength of the enemy. Blinded by that desire for revenge, you don't worry about what else you can lose. You only have one thing in mind. It's bloodshed. Some say an eye for an eye, but how does it actually go? Geronimo was born in No-doyohn Canyon, Arizona, to the Bedonkohe Apache tribe in June 1829, near present-day Clifton state in Arizona. He was the fourth child of a family of 4 boys and 4 girls, and he was known as Goyathlay, or the One Who Yawns. He was accepted to the Council of the Warriors in 1846, when he was 17, allowing him to finally get married. He soon gained permission, married a woman named Alope, and the couple had 3 children. The group, which was at peace with the Mexican cities and surrounding Indian tribes, ventured into Old Mexico in the mid-1850s to trade. They slept for many days outside the Mexican town of Casquille. The majority of the men walked into town to trade, leaving a few warriors to protect the camp. On their way back from town, they were greeted by a group of women and children who informed them that Mexican forces had invaded their camp. When they arrived at camp, they discovered that their guard warriors had been slaughtered and that their horses, food, supplies, and weapons had been stolen. Even more concerning, many of the women and children had been slaughtered. Goyatlay's wife, mother, and 3 children were among those who were murdered, and as a result, he despised all Mexicans for the rest of his life. The massacre of his family transformed him from a gentle Indian into a fearless warrior. Soon after, he joined the formidable Goyathlay Apache tribe and participated in multiple raids in northern Mexico and over the border into US territory, which is now known as the states of New Mexico and Arizona. His Mexican opponents earned him his nickname Geronimo, which is the Spanish translation of the name Jerome. Geronimo battled in ever-increasing numbers against both Mexicans and white settlers as they began to conquer much of the Apache homelands. By the early 1870s, however, Lieutenant Colonel George F. Crook, the commander of the Department of Arizona, had achieved considerable peace in the area. His successor's management, on the other hand, proved to be the least disastrous. In 1876, the United States was interested in relocating the Chiricahua and their ancestral homeland to the San Carlos Reservation, a bleak wilderness in east-central Arizona known as Hell's 40 Acres. They revolted because they were deprived of their traditional tribal privileges. They were short on food and supplies and were isolated. Encouraged by the actions of Geronimo, hundreds of Apaches escaped to Mexico, beginning their struggle against the invaders. Geronimo and the soldiers he recruited began a 10-year era of occasional attacks against white villages, interspersed with times of peaceful farming on the San Carlos Reservation. General George Crook was summoned to Arizona in 1882 to take command of a war against the Apache. Geronimo surrendered in January 1884, but fled from the San Carlos Reservation on May 17, 1885, accompanied by 35 warriors and 109 other men, women, and children, spurred by tales of upcoming trials and hangings. At various points during the final assault, at least 5,000 white troops and 500 Indian auxiliaries were used to capture Geronimo's little band. Geronimo was tracked to his camp in Mexico's Sonora Mountains 5 months and 1,645 miles later. Geronimo surrendered on March 27, 1886, at Cañón de los Embudos in Sonora, Mexico, exhausted and completely overpowered. His band was made up of a few soldiers, women, and children. A little white child called Jimmy Santiago McKinn, who had been kidnapped by Indians 6 months previously in September, was additionally found. The rescued youngster had gotten so used to the Apache way of life that he sobbed when he was forced to return to his parents. C.S. Fly, of Tombstone reputation, was also traveling with General Crook. He was able to shoot some of the most iconic images in American history when the band had been apprehended. The soldiers assembled the troops and set off for Fort Bowie, Arizona. However, approaching the border, Geronimo fled with Chief Nietzsche, 11 warriors, and a few women and boys, believing that they would be slaughtered if they entered into US territory. They were able to return to the Sierra Madre. As a result, Brigadier General Nelson A. Miles replaced Crook as commander on April 2, 1886. On September 3, 1886, near Skeleton Canyon in Arizona, General Miles encouraged Geronimo to surrender once more, promising that he and his men would be allowed to return to Arizona after an extended exile in Florida. The promise was never fulfilled. Geronimo and his fellow inmates were transported by boxcar to Florida for the imprisonment process and hard labor. He didn't see his family until May of 1887. He was transferred to Fort Sill in Oklahoma Territory in 1894, where he tried to fit in. He farmed and became a member of the Dutch Reformed Church, which rejected him due to his inability to resist gambling. Stories of Geronimo's warrior brutally made him into a legend that inspired both non-Indians and Indians alike. As a result, he made several appearances at fairs, selling souvenirs and pictures of himself. When he participated in President Theodore Roosevelt's inaugural procession in 1905, he caused quite a stir. Because of the public's obsession with him, he appeared in Wild West shows, such as Buffalo Bill Cody's and Pawnee Bill's, around the turn of the century, attracting hundreds of spectators. These presentations featured reenactments of past battles, Indian races, real buffalo, and, most notably, legendary figures such as Sitting Bull, Chief Joseph, and Rains in the Face, who is said to be the man who murdered Custer. The Indians participated in the performances in order to travel not only in the United States, but also in Europe. Geronimo also took part in a number of other events that showcased him to tourists, including the Omaha and Buffalo expositions, as well as the St. Louis World Fair in 1904. Because of these numerous occurrences, as well as Geronimo's ferocious reputation, he became one of the most photographed Native Americans of the period. The once feared warrior died as a kindly Christian in his final years, but bloodlust lingered under the surface. Geronimo's last words, as he lay on his deathbed with pneumonia at the age of nearly 80, are said to have been, "I should have never surrendered. I should have kept fighting until I was the last survivor." It is unknown whether Geronimo truly said these words, but stories and Native American traditions from old cowboy movies still remain. He was laid to rest in the Apache Cemetery at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. This story has weight on it. This shows the importance of family and love that one person can have. When your whole world sinks, what do? Tell us in the comments if you were impressed by this story. If you like this video and want more content like this, hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching.